Resources Director before me. I see Chief, you can come up as well. Chief of Fire, please come up. If you could both state your names and titles, please.
Good evening, Michael Vetrano, Human Resources Director.
Good evening, Fire Chief Anthony Carley.
Thank you. Gentlemen, this has been in committee for a little bit, so what we're trying to do here is we were trying to establish the fact of an ordinance, a prior ordinance, and what matters we're taking to enforce the ordinance, and that's what we're looking at. I know there may have been a decision that has just been done in, I believe, the city of Lynn. Do you know about that?
Yes, sir. So, there is a decision through the police bargaining unit in the city of Lynn. There's some case law now that
This is with you. You can sit on this.
the residency is, although it was passed as an ordinance, wasn't bargaining with the collective bargaining agreement from the police union, and they won it on appeal. I'm not sure if it's on appeal. I haven't got a chance to read the whole case. But they had to abide by it and barter it in with the contract for the residency requirement.
So there was an issue with the residency requirement that was,
Yes, they never negotiated with the police union.
okay.
For the
So it was
city of-
just
for the city of
somebody
Lynn.
put something into play that they shouldn't have at that time?
Correct.
All right. Can we have copies of that?
Absolutely.
All right. And you could furnish the chief, if you could, give the chief a copy of that as well, so that they have it.
Okay.
Let me see, is the police here? Anyone from police? Captain Basteri, could you come up, please? Are you representing the chief tonight?
I don't know if I have,
I can get it to him.
I get it to you.
If you could just state your name and title, sir.
Captain Richard Basteri.
Thank you. And you're representing the chief tonight, correct? Thank you. The Human Resources Director will be giving you something to give to the chief in regards to a hearing or a judgment that come down in Lynn in regards to what we're talking about tonight. What I'd like to do is just explain, Mr. Director, the procedures that you do follow and do use according to our ordinances so that we understand that in regards to fire and police.
In regards to the residency?
Yes.
So right now, during the hiring process, we collect their IDs and onboard them per like civil service and under Department of Labor laws. Ongoing throughout their employment, we'll do update emergency contact forms and check their residency. We also check the voter's registration, and we'll do our own due diligence internally through other avenues. It could be as easy as internet search and other sources like that.
Okay.
We also monitor the papers. For instance, if an employee gets married and it shows that it reflects their marriage and where they're going to reside after the wedding, and then we'll take corrective action if necessary.
Now, according to civil service law, once they apply for the city of Everett, they have to be living in the city of Everett?
So civil service would be separate from the residency. So prior to taking the exam, they would
Yes.
have to put the residency currently, and correct me if I'm wrong, they can put city as one of their primary places to work, and they'll go to the top of the list if they're.
Do they have to be living here prior
They have-
to make this
I can
a,
answer that.
Yeah, because there's veterans involved, so. go ahead.
In order to claim residency preference for a city, you have to have 1 year of actual residency in that city prior to the exam.
Prior
So if
to.
the exam was November 1st of this year, they would have to have established residency and proved that
so
for
they
the
would have to
previous
come up
year.
with proof that they lived here prior?
Not to us, at the time of registration with civil service.
And
And
that
they-
would be through civil service?
Yeah, and they actually click a box that claims under the pains and penalties, that they're truthful. By the time, that could be almost 2 years away from the time we actually see them and when the list is established. So we still use that as part of our vetting process, along with the investigation that we conduct for new hires.
Okay. Reason why I'm asking is because we're doing stuff amongst ourselves that we're going to be governing ourselves as well. for future elections, and it's already, I believe, in a committee now, so we're looking at doing things for ourselves. There's already an ordinance on the books for both fire and police. Now, they have to stay within, the first 7 years, they have to live here?
Correct.
Correct? I should know it, I wrote it. But I think it's the 7-year rule, so, okay. What I'll look forward to from you, sir, and before I let you go, they may have questions as well, but I want the updated version of the Lynn case, and if you could give them, the chief and also Captain Misteri, a copy of it, so that they can bring it back to the prospective people that they have to deal with, just so that they know as well. Just furnish us one as well, the committee, so that we have it. And I'm going to probably motion and grant further time after they open it up to them. So, any further questions? Councilman Delasola.
Yeah, good evening, guys. Good evening. How many, was it one resident that we, correct me if I'm wrong, one resident employee that worked for either the fire or police, was it, that we found did not live in Everett, or am I wrong? That lived in Everett but now moved, but still,
There
Was
was
employed.
one employee,
There was
correct.
one.
There was an employee, but it wasn't police or fire at that time.
okay.
It was terminated.
But you go through the books, like you said, the records, you go through the records
Correct.
all through the 7 years that he's employed, from the time they start to the 7th year?
That particular one was a short time. It wasn't the whole 7 years. It was very, very early on in the career, employment, and we caught it, and it was separated employment.
And when 7 years is up, they can move up,
Absolutely, after 7 years, an employee can go.
move wherever they want to.
According to the ordinance.
I just want to, I know we're looking at the residency requirement. Something that's alarming to me is that we put the residency ordinance in place several years ago, and we have several unions in place was it 12 unions, and the clerical union being one. We place this ordinance in place, and then we compensate our employees, but the house values have gone up, so it's kind of difficult now and challenging, especially for our clerical people, to find housing in our community. So it's becoming difficult for us to find employees that can actually live on the wages we're paying them and still stay housing. And what's even more alarming, some of our clerical employees, I'm filling out state aid forms to get them assistance, because we're being bucketed in, because we are similar to Boston, and they're pulling us in with that median household income. And to sit there and fill out that form, it's very challenging. So I do urge the board and encourage that when you do meet, to reevaluate this residency requirement. because-
I think actually, I'll talk on that now.
Okay.
Because I think it was actually just put together for fire and police, and I don't think that they were included in it. We'll check it again, and we'll go over it as well, myself and you, to make sure that that's not in there, because I know
Okay.
that they weren't in there. I don't think that they were part of it, but I could be
It's my
wrong.
understanding they are, but that would be great if they're not. I mean,
Oh,
I've
yeah,
read it
well,
over and over. but-
what we'll do is we'll take a look. That's why I want to grant further time, so that we can
Absolutely.
actually take a look at it, so.
Okay.
Councilman Delasola.
I'm all set, thank you. Answer my
Councilman
question.
Capola? Seeing no other further questions, excuse the customary thanks. Thank you for appearing tonight, gentlemen. I'll get back to you, and if you could just give
get this
a
copy now.
copy to both the chiefs.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you.
one to our clerk, because he has to, we have to take a look at that as well. I'd like to grant further time. Motion made and seconded to grant further time. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Please read item number.
All right, item number 2, this order up by Council McKinnon and Matusky, that the candidates for the election process.
Can I have Councilman Matusky, Clerk Matarazzo? Gentlemen, state your names and titles, please.
Wayne Matusky, Councilman at Large.
Michael Matarazzo, City Clerk.
Thank you. The reason why we're here is basically what we were just talking about, residency on the next up-and-coming election. Mr. Matusky, I know that you have been working on this, and you've been receiving some information from, like, the City of Boston and also other various state agencies, so why don't we open it up with you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, let me say why this has been placed on the calendar and sent to committee. It seems in the last election, there was at least 3 candidates for various offices that did not live in the city. And I've never heard of this before. I've been around a long time. And you heard, and if you say nothing, well, shame on you. There was a candidate that said if he won, he was going to move to Everett, okay? It was said that he lived in Somerville. And, my position is this, Mr. Chairman, and to the members of the committee. It's not a candidate or a councilman's job to find out if these people actually live in Everett, these other candidates, because it looks like a sour grape situation, okay? Just to question somebody's residency. So that being said, I did call Revere. I did call the city of Malden to talk to their clerks. It did happen in Revere a few elections ago. They sent somebody out from the clerk's office and talked to neighbors of the house that this individual said he lived at. None of the neighbors knew him. They knew who he was, but they said he didn't live there. His car was never parked there. So there was some due diligence on the clerk or the election department in the city of Revere. So, we can go along to get along, and that's great. But to be honest with you, in fairness to the community, if you don't live here, you shouldn't be serving an elected position. That's my position on it. And, the law is the law. You sign a piece of paper, a nomination, when you pull out that it's perjury. But I guess that doesn't faze some people. Where you sleep is where you live. Okay? And there was candidates, and, I don't have to name names because it's common knowledge amongst whoever's running for office. But my contention is that we have to have a mechanism that it's not up to the candidates that may be running against these individuals to do the work. It really isn't. So this is where we're at right now, and I hope that we can do something for before the next city election, such as knocking on doors. The personnel director does that. Even the school department, Mr. Chairman, knocks on. They have the warranty offices, truant offices, checking on where people live, and they do it pretty thoroughly. And this is a simple task to me. Everett's 3 square miles. It's not like you got to go all over the place, okay? So I just put this on the calendar along with yourself as the co-sponsor, just to get to the bottom of it, and let's move forward. And, if I can be of help, I'm willing to work with anybody on this, but
I think the way that I'm looking at it is we put it in the form of an ordinance, or we refer it out to the city clerk, or the mechanism now that's in place. Could you talk about that,
Sure.
Mr. Clerk?
There's a couple of problems. One is, the first thing, in order to run for office in a city, you must be a voter. So everything goes back to whether or not you are qualified to be a voter in the city of Everett. The Secretary of State's office has a booklet talking about residency. Directly from their booklet, it says, there is no satisfactory brief description of residence. The concept of a person's residence is dependent upon the facts of each particular case. Then it also says, but it's also essential to understand that residence is an objective and not a subjective concept. That is what counts. It's not where someone thinks his or her residence is or wants it to be, but rather where the facts show it is. And if it ended right there, it'd be fine. However, in the very next sentence, it states, of course, a person's statements and expressed desires, especially when they are not self-serving, may be evidence of residence because they are facts themselves. That begs the statement, and I'm glad Councilor Capone is here, because how does one determine the validity of somebody's expressed desires? Then it states the person must be physically present, that person must eat and sleep there. How long? And, now it has to satisfy 2 things. The person must actually intend to make the place home, at least for the time being. how in this case it would be the Election Commission now. Oh, by the way, with respect to the intention to make the place home, a person need not intend to make the place home permanently or even for an indefinite time, since the only requirement is an intent to make the place home for the time at least. Once again, how you prove intent is beyond me. So that's the problem that you have. And I'll give you a great example that just kind of sprung to me. Gentleman decides to run for council, lives in Malden. He's married. Where's your wife? Malden. Where do your children go to school? Malden. Aha. Let me see your license. Malden. Let me see your tax bill. Malden. I'm sorry, buddy, you live in Malden. Oh, really? I'm having a little trouble. Me and the wife are separated, not legally, but we thought it was time to separate for a while. This could be for 6 months. It could be forever. I'm staying with my brother. For now, that's where I live. So to have like the Election Commission go out and start, I don't know how they would do it. No other city does it, by the way. I talked to every one of them. None of them do it. They sign, and you're right, they sign that statement, guilty of penalties of perjury. Someone, and it does not have to be a candidate, has to challenge that person's right to be a voter in the community. And why shouldn't it be the Election Commission? Because they're going to be the judge. So they're going to be the judge. When that comes up, and any voter has a right, and the voter challenges it based on, you know, I don't believe this person lives in the city, the ultimate judge of that decision is going to be the commission. So they really shouldn't be the prosecutor and the judge. They're going to be the judge in that case. So, but any voter can challenge. Any voter. It does not have to be a candidate. Any voter can step forward and say, you know what, I'm sorry, this guy's a candidate, and in order to be a candidate, he must be a voter in the city of Everett. I challenge his right to be registered as a voter in the city of Everett, and everyone has any person can do that, any person at all.
Mr. Clerk?
Yep.
Okay, so that right there being said, I mean, now, how should we proceed with this? Should we go after an ordinance? Should we refer this to the Election Commission? Through the
Yeah,
chair,
I would
by the way,
refer to
excuse
them
me.
and just let them know, I mean,
Does it
we've
go
been
to
bringing
you?
them right along anyhow,
Can
but
we send it to you as well?
yeah, it's already a state law.
Okay.
It's already a state law that
can we-
anyone may challenge. In this case, you're really not challenging their right to run. You're challenging their right to be a voter, because in order to run, you must be
A voter.
a voter in the city of Everett, or in a ward council's case, you must be a voter in that particular ward. So if you, so you're challenging that, and it's a state law. It shows exactly what happens. The person's called in, and the Election Commission will sit, hear the evidence on both sides, ask for evidence, and decide whether or not that person has a right to be a voter. I actually sat through one in 1980-something. I think I said it before, I think my wife was on the registrar of vote. At that time, the registrar of voters heard it. And somebody challenged, and they actually had to hear one of those cases. There's a lot of these things, and I don't want you to think that the Secretary of State's being wishy-washy. In the court cases, the things that have come down, the decisions, is what they're basing theirs on. And the court cases, they're huge. It's like a massive list of them. A homeless person would not be able to, say a homeless person wanted to run for city council, what could they show you to prove where they lived? You know what I mean? So it's very difficult. And those are extreme cases, I understand that.
Mr. Clerk, we have circumstances where you're saying these circumstances,
Yeah.
I understand. To cure that, if we put an ordinance together, would that be a way to go about this?
I don't know what kind of ordinance it would supersede the state law, which already tells you exactly what to do in those cases. And once a challenge is made, and Councilor Hanlon's from it, but tell me if I'm wrong, but I just briefly glanced at it today. Once a challenge is made, I believe, before the clerk and now the election commission, has the right to ask a police officer to investigate the residency of that person. I believe once a complaint is made,
That's what happens,
that's what happens.
according to the state.
Yes.
Okay.
It's all spelt out, the exact way that it's done. And that way, the investigation, once again, is not done by the person who's ultimately gonna judge. All right, so it's already written there.
Yeah.
It's already in
so
state
that's-
law.
That's at the state level.
Right.
Okay. I'm trying to gather ideas to
Yeah,
see
so you
how
just
we
have
can
to
go
let
about
people
it.
know that indeed, that possibility is there.
Okay.
Any voter.
We still
Councilman
have
Hanlon?
the person that has been challenged, okay, we say that you're not a voter, still has the right to vote. The thing is that they have to sign an application, affidavit saying
Right.
that that's what they are. They get to vote on a paper ballot, you know, and that ballot is then sealed and handled as a vote that will be counted later if the result of the election would require it by one vote or something
Yeah,
like
well, we're
that.
talking about candidates, though.
Right.
About candidates' right to run.
Okay, I thought you were talking about.
No,
the voters, I'm
no,
sorry.
but-
I got a little late, I know, but.
Right, but the way to get them is through the fact that they must be a voter in order to run.
Councilman,
And-
Which is-
Councilman Delasola? Are you done, Councilman
Sorry,
Hanlon?
I didn't know there was terms, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay. I'm sorry.
Did I bust it?
Are you all set?
No.
Yeah, I'm all set. Go ahead.
This is gonna be a tricky solution here with all this, but my question is, let's say you challenge someone and they do live here.
I'm sorry, what?
If you challenge a resident, says he lives here, we challenge him and he wins the election and wins that he does live in Everett. All right?
That did happen in the case that I recall. The person, there was no way to prove that the person did not live where they said that they lived, and the race went on as normal.
Say he wins now, during his term, there's suspicion that he does not live in Everett.
Right.
Now, can you go at it again?
Yes, you could, yeah, of course you could, because the charter states that, say a council from Ward 3 moves, they can keep their seat as long as they stay in Everett. A councilor at large, or a councilor, ward council moves out of the city, they must relinquish their seat. So, yes, that could happen, and someone could challenge that, and I believe in that case, however, the city council determines its own membership. So I think the city council would hold hearings. Am I right, Mr. Clerk? Am I right, John? I think so. I think we determine our own, well, I still say we. The council determines its own membership. So I think that would be a hearing before the Ethics Commission or a special committee put together by the president, and they would determine the residency. And smartly would probably follow the same rules as the state, even though you're not bound to it. But I would do it in that manner, have a nice hearing, and
Just what you read off earlier, there's 7 different scenarios
isn't
on that.
it wild?
It doesn't come
really
down
is.
and say A, B, and C.
Yeah.
It's just, it could be, he can move in with his mother a month before he signs his papers to run for, say, city council Ward 3.
Because we don't have you must live in the state legislature, you must live in your district 1 year from the day papers are available, I think that's we don't have that, and we never have. Because you don't have to live here for a certain time previous to running, you could literally move in the last day nomination papers are
Correct.
are due, and you'd have no identification,
Maybe we need to do that.
you know, and I would check with other cities, I'm not sure if it exists anywhere, but yeah.
Councilman Capone, do you have anything? Okay. Councilman Delasola?
I'm all set, thank you.
Just a quick question to
Mhm.
Councilman Matusky. When you checked with Malden and you checked with Revere, do they have a certain paper or a certain time limit? You have to be in Everett before you can consider yourself running?
Malden.
Malden?
I thought that you had to be a resident
Prior.
prior to pulling nomination papers. It says it on the nomination, I live here, I swear that I live at a certain
Right.
address. And I thought there was a time on that, but I might be wrong. But, no, Revere said they had an instance like this just a few years ago. They sent either the clerks or the police department there. The neighbors knew the person, but they said he did not live there. They told the person, look, you're being challenged, you know, and the neighbors say they don't even see your car there or whatever. And he withdrew from the race. But what we're talking about, it's, you know, if it was one candidate, well, that's bad. But when you're talking 3 candidates, possibly more, it's a little ridiculous, okay? We had no primaries that I can remember last election. It's not like we got a slew of candidates running. We have 1 primary, I believe, yeah, more 2. But, you know, my thing is that if you average 3 square miles, you gotta live here. You don't move, and then if you win, then that statement I made earlier, a candidate was living in Somerville, and if he wins, he's gonna move in. I mean, it doesn't fly with me. But no, I appreciate the clerk, the effort that he put in, and I know that we can solve this problem when nomination papers are taken out, that there will be, you're signing the document, you're gonna say that you live where you say you live. And, you know, that means a lot. And I guess if you eat and sleep here, that means you live here, according to the paperwork that he mentioned.
What I'd like to do from the chair, if I may, what I'd like to do with this is I'd like to grant further time and possibly send this off to the Election Commission. Are they
Can I ask-
informed, are they
Yes.
formulated
Oh, yeah.
now and all that? Okay. So when will they be in session?
Well, they've been meeting every week because of the early voting coming up, so.
Okay.
I
So
would,
we could put something
I would
for them
request
to.
from them a list of surrounding communities that perhaps have a, what do they call that?
Policy.
A residency limit on how long you must live in a community before, see if that still exists. And also, since one is an attorney, have there been any court cases challenging that? That you must live in, like the state legislature, you must live a year before running, or 6 months, maybe, you know. Do other communities have that, and have there been court challenges to it?
Okay. And if we would like to maybe strengthen it a little bit by having a paper that you have to sign.
You do.
Pains of.
You do. You do on the back of your nomination paper.
Okay.
Remember how we have you sign
Yeah.
one paper? That's it.
So
You
that's
sign
the
that
one.
under
Okay.
pains of penalty. That's why we notarize it.
That's from the state.
That's
Pains
from
of
us.
That's you and
Yeah.
the state as well, correct?
Yep.
So everything that's going through you is going to the state?
Right.
And then, okay.
Well, not me anymore, but, yeah.
Not you, lucky you. But the Election Commission. All right, so is there any other questions? Seeing none, I'd like to grant further time, send this off to the Election Commission, and request that they look at limitations on residency prior to signing onto the dotted line to run for office. Thank you. Excuse the customary thanks. All
Thank you,
those in
guys.
favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it, you have done so. Can we read item number 3?
All right. Item number 3, this is a resolution by Council Frank Capoon. Bicycle Safety Education Program for school-aged children and public at large.
Councilman Capone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we have someone from the mayor's office? Mr. O'Donnell?
We have the chief of staff before us, please. Chief, just state title and name for the record. Do you want someone from the police department up as well?
No, that's, we've already talked about it.
Good evening, Kevin O'Donnell, Chief of Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through to Mr. O'Donnell. We've already spoken with the police department on this, so there's no need for them to weigh in on it. It first came up in spring. Now we're going into winter, so it's still an issue that we need to think about down the road. It's bicycle safety. You see it all the time. It's not just children. It's adults. As a matter of fact, today alone, I was driving up Broadway, and there's a truck that was taking a right-hand turn on a side street. Some guy zipped by on his bike and came around the blind side of the truck, cut him right off. How he didn't get hit, I don't know. But what I'm trying to do is, I remember years ago, a lot of years ago when I was a kid, I think there used to be like a handbook about bike safety. I know the police department said that they do have a program with regards to helmets and things of that nature. But I'd like to look in the possibility of a bike safety program, both for children and for adults, maybe they're ECTV, newspaper, whatever it is. Just have people be a little bit more conscientious about everyone else who's on the road, the rules of the road, Because I think as an adult, I think you're supposed to drive in the street as if you're a vehicle. You're supposed to stop at the intersection. I think you're even supposed to walk your bike through the intersection, then get back on your bike. That doesn't happen. And then you see adults, children flying down a sidewalk. A collision with an elderly individual is going to put them in rehab for a very, very long time. So just little things like that, and I know we can't police everything that people do, but I'd like to try to do something to just make people a little more aware of, there are regulations with regards to operating a bicycle. You have to be safe, not only for yourself, but for pedestrians, and how you're supposed to use the bike. I don't know if that's something that you think that we might be able to do, either through ECTV, newspaper print, in the school system. I don't know.
Oh, no, and we're in agreement, and, you know, particularly with, you know, I drive the city every day, and I have a responsibility of taking my elderly mother to all her appointments. They're all in the city and everything like that, and I do see more of an issue with the adult bicyclists on a constant basis, and there's a couple in particular that stand out, and it is an area of concern, particularly where we're trying to promote, you know, a greener society and encourage some of these uses of bike to limit the traffic and cut down on cars. So, you know, we certainly be willing to work with the police department and whatever other mechanisms we could get out to do public service announcements, or, you know, particularly the rules of the road, because it truly isn't being followed on a regular basis, mainly by the adults. I honestly think that they're more of an issue than the children. The children seem to really be more in tune at times.
Sure. No, I agree with you. I think with children, we just have to make them aware. Somehow, we need to explain to adults the dangers of the bike, like weaving through traffic, flying down a sidewalk, not looking where you're going, your own safety and everyone else's. So I do appreciate you coming up here. Probably after relinquish the floor if there are any other questions, but probably looking to refer it to the office and see what, if anything, can be done about that. Bring public awareness up.
Oh, absolutely.
So, thank you.
Councilors? Councilman Delasola?
Good evening, Kevin. I notice firsthand, I'm always in Cambridge and Somerville every day working, and I see the gentlemen and the ladies that ride the bikes out in the street. And I know we talked, I think last year, about when we talked about doing Main Street over in the future, about putting a bike lane down Main Street. I think that'll come up one time last year. And it's amazing how many people ride bikes out in the streets in Cambridge and Somerville. I was in the area about a week and a half ago, and the gentleman had the fatal accident out there. And it's, I don't mean like one or two bicycles in the lanes. There's 50, 60 people coming down the road, especially in the morning, coming down, and it's dangerous. I mean, personally, I don't like them out there, but it seems to be a thing of the future. What's going to happen in Everett. So this is a great piece Council Capone, I think, is putting on here. And let's start now before we invite everybody in the streets with the bicycles, with the bike lanes, because I know in Somerville, I've seen them stop the bicycles, give tickets. You know, they're making right-hand turns without indicating they're making a right or a left. And this is a great piece. We're starting early on this, which is great for all of us.
And it's certainly, you know, much better to be proactive as opposed to reactive. And I mean,
Correct.
even on an evening like tonight, I mean, any one of us are bound to run across one or two people who are riding a bike without any reflective gear or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, that's scary because, you know, the driver could be doing everything right and just simply not see someone on the bicycle.
There are some that come out of the bike lane and come right across you when you have no control.
Oh, absolutely.
But-
No, in full agreement, and, you know, with all new development, new proposals and streets and everything, a dedicated bike lane is always a topic of conversation,
Correct.
which stands more to reason that we need to be proactive on this to, you know, get people on board and to buy into it.
Right. All right, thank you.
All set, Council?
Yes, I am.
Councilman Hanlon, you have anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Capone? Excuse Council Ray, thanks. Thank you for appearing tonight.
I make a motion, we refer this out to the body to refer to the mayor's office and the police department, and just look for ways to try to bring public awareness to the matter.
So you want this to go to the general body?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion made.
I'd like to see if I can be put on that piece with Council
Oh,
Capone.
absolutely, sure.
You want to amend it now?
Yep, I move to amend it to add.
Move to amend to add Councilman Delasola to the piece, refer this out to the general body, the police department, the mayor's department, at that point. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Please read item number 4.
Item number 4, this is a resolution by Councilors Capone, McKinnon, and Napolitano. This is the Volunteer Auxiliary Police Station.
Councilman Capone.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a little confused because I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we had resolved this at the last meeting.
We
something
wanted,
else
we
going on?
granted further time to see how the parade was going to be handled
Okay.
and how they were actually working it out or something to that effect, so.
I thought it was referred to both chiefs.
Was it referred on?
Yeah, I thought we referred to both Chief Auxiliary and Chief of Police to try to work together
What's
to
it
make it
doing back
happen.
here?
But if there are people here and you want to talk to them, that's fine.
There's people here. We can
Yeah.
bring them up.
If people made the effort to come here, I think we.
Because I
hear
think
from them.
basically they worked it all out anyway, so.
Okay.
What do you want to do with it? Do you want them to have them come up and
Yeah.
just speak on, okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Could we have Chief Jordan, Captain Basteri, and also, do you want anybody else? Okay.
I think that's
Okay.
fine.
Just state your names and titles for the record, please.
Chief Jordan, Everett Auxiliary Police.
Captain Richard Basteri.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilman
Chairman.
Capone.
Through you to the gentleman, thank you very much for being here. I was glad to see the use of the auxiliary during the parade. The intent has always been to utilize that resource that's available, that's willing to volunteer their time in whatever capacity, would be deemed appropriate. I thought everything was resolved. Is it not resolved, or?
Pretty much so.
Okay.
We had a small showing of, like 5 officers, but, they were placed in pretty, special places that were like really busy. And, we could have had more, but a bunch of them weren't really prepared, but anyhow, but we did what we could do, and, it seemed to come out pretty good. And now we're looking forward to maybe like Halloween or whatever.
Good. And the most important thing, the lines of communication are open. And
Yeah,
everyone's talking.
yeah.
That's,
Yeah, the chief, we went down to the roll call, and, it seemed to be pretty good. I was on the sidelines because I ended up, working for the schools, but it came out, pretty good. Yeah,
okay.
it's really good.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, because I know
Yep.
that was the one concern. We wanted to make sure that there were lines of communication open. Chief acknowledged that he would. You did as well. And so when I saw folks helping out at the parade, I thought it was wonderful.
Yep.
So I don't have any other questions. I don't know if any other councilors do.
Councilors? Council, okay. I have a couple of questions. Right now, Chief, do you have a list of guys that are going to be coming on new?
Yes, we did. We sent it down. We faxed it, not faxed it, we emailed it down to the city, the mayor's office and to send down to the chief to have background checks for approval.
Okay.
Yep.
And where is that right now?
It should be either down the chief's or in the mayor's office or somewhere in the,
Could we have Mr. O'Donnell from the mayor's office, please? Mr. O'Donnell, if you could just state your name and title for the record again, please.
Kevin O'Donnell, Chief of Staff. Yes, we've been having email correspondence with Chief Jordan. It's just, we're waiting for the finalization of the vetting process, and once that is completed, they can be on the next agenda.
Well, they'll be on our agenda coming towards us?
Yes.
You know what time frame possibly, or?
Oh, I'm certain the process will be done before the next,
Meeting.
not for Monday's meeting, obviously, but for the next one.
For the next one?
process will be
So
completed.
November, first meeting in November,
Yes.
possibly? Okay. Thank you for that. Also, are your guys going to be utilized during Halloween?
well, with approval from the chief, when the chief looks us over. Usually, it's kind of a light thing on Halloween. It's like 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 guys, and they go from we used to go through schools, but now the custodians do the schools. So now we used to do Union Street projects down there, and we would go out to the Whittier projects down there, and Sweets of Circle. We'd have one guy down there because it's kind of locked up down there. But that's about it. We don't do the schools anymore that much because now they have the custodians do those. So, but we used
So
to.
it would be a limited role if you,
Yeah,
Okay.
a few guys, not many.
probably the elderly centers.
Yeah,
Thank you.
right, exactly.
Captain Basteri, sorry, but I'm looking at bars and stuff. It looks like the chief. Captain, do you think that there's a possibility they're gonna be called up for Halloween, or what's happening with that?
I haven't spoken to the chief about it. We have used them as, he said in the past years. I mean, they do a fine job, you know, in the limited role. So I can't speak for the chief, but I assume they probably will be.
Okay. Well, there'll be a good other set of eyes out there, I hope, you know what I mean? So, all right, thank you. I have any other further questions? Seeing none. Excuse the customary thanks. Thank you for appearing tonight.
Thank you very much.
Refer it back. Yeah.
Move refer back to sponsor.
Motion made and seconded to refer back to sponsor. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Please read item number 5.
All right. Item number 5. This is a resolution by Council Frank Caputa and Michael McLaughlin. This is the environmental impact of plastics.
On this, I know that the counselor is not here tonight, and he is at a prior commitment. He requested that this be referred to the next meeting, so you're on the piece as well, Councilman Capone, so.
Yeah, I know that we were here at the first time this came up through the committee. He had actually mentioned an ordinance, and I think he was gonna have the clerk draft something. I haven't seen anything yet. So
Me neither.
I'm sure it exists. I'm sure it exists, but I haven't seen it. I can't put it on the floor until I looked at it.
So why don't
I would ask for further time.
All right. Anyone else on this piece?
No, just make it.
Refer to the next meeting? Motion made and seconded to refer this item to the next meeting on government ops. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Please read item number 6.
Item number 6. This is a resolution by Councilor John McKinnon that the First Baptist Church representatives appear to discuss parking and traffic toll.
Could I have the representatives from the church as well as the city engineer before me? Just introduce yourselves, names and titles, please. And we'll start from this side of the room here.
Peter Napolitano, Councilman at Large.
Thank you.
Jay Monty, Transportation Planner.
Thank you, Jay, for showing up.
Bill O'Rourke, Director of Engineering.
Thank you, Bill.
Irene Cadillo, church officer, First
Thank you.
Baptist.
Paul Cadillo, 25 Rosedale Ave, church officer.
Thank you. With this piece here, I know that I've been involved with it. I put it on as a piece a while back. I know that a few of us have been involved with this. Councilman Napolitano, that's why he's here now. He was very involved with it as well. So maybe we'll start off with you, Councilman, this side right here.
Well, and we're aware, that, I mean, again, we've been discussing the traffic patterns there for a while. I know I met with Mr. O'Rourke about a month ago at on the site. We were talking a little bit about this. You know, I'm still at a loss as to how the existing traffic pattern even came about, where that road, where Church Street was always traditionally one-way straight out to Linden. And I believe, and I still believe that as someone who uses that roadway daily, that it's an incorrect situation. But I know that the city engineer is going to be coming before us for an allocation to create a traffic study. I look forward to hearing that because I think it'll just prove out. I mean, there are times where it seems to me like we're married to this current pattern, which is causing problems, and yet I don't see any logical reason as to why. I've been told that that the streets are not wide enough to be able to put a center divider and make Church Street one way out to Linden and Webster one way out to Broadway. Yet currently we have 3 points of access on that street. The right-hand turn that goes down to Church Street, and then both the two-way turns on Webster. So if we've got three points of access on that street, I don't understand how it's not wide enough to turn it down to 2 points of access with one traffic going one way and the other going the other. So I'm at a little bit of a loss to that, but of course, I'm also content that the traffic study will see that through. I'm aware now, as I'm sure the members of the church will talk about, is there was a funeral that the traffic patterns almost created a nightmare, and I'll leave that for them to go into greater detail, because they were there firsthand. I'm only aware of it from the communications that were sent to me. But, you know, I think this is a serious problem. I commute that road 6 days a week on my way to work, and at least once a week, I have somebody coming at me in the opposite direction down Church Street. They blow right past the stop sign, which we, as a city engineer will also attest, we discovered is covered by a tree. So even if you don't know the neighborhood and you take that right on Linden down Church Street, you have no way of necessarily seeing that this is a one-way street, and it's an accident waiting to happen, and I believe in being proactive. I'd like to see this changed and fixed before we have a serious accident down there. And right now, it's just, personally, I think it's a nightmare. I said it 3 years ago, it was a nightmare, when we originally suggested splitting the road the way I recommended. And what we ended up was this process we have right now, which I can't even see the logic behind it. So, thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Mr. Monty?
So, as Councilor Napolitano mentioned, this was an issue, you know, that's been ongoing for quite a while. The mayor's office referred it to us a little over a year ago to look at it a little more closely. One of the things that I found when I first looked at the intersection was that when Church Street came all the way to Linden Street, you effectively had a wrong-way road at that point. So you had traffic that would normally be on the right, on the left. And observing that traffic pattern, what was very clear to me was that there were conflicts arising between the different directions of traffic that don't normally exist in an intersection. So for example, if you come out to the end of Webster Street onto Broadway and you go to turn right, your only conflict is the traffic coming from your left. The way the Church Webster Street was configured, that same right turning movement not only had the traffic coming from the left conflicting, but also had the left turning movements coming from Linden Street. Similar, if you're turning left from Linden onto Webster, you were conflicting with that move coming up Church Street. So those conflicts became very confusing to drivers, and there was a tendency for folks to want to get over to the right as they came to the intersection because it was, you know, it felt more comfortable, which then created another issue of nobody knowing where they're supposed to be. So we came up with a few options internally. You know, admittedly, there are not a lot of good options there. The one that is there now seemed to be the least impactful. I think the intent was to come back at a later point and further improve the curbs, the island, to make it function better. We haven't gotten to that point yet. I think we're still discussing whether this is even worth keeping in this manner. So that's kind of where we're at. It went from there to the Traffic Commission, and it was approved by the Traffic Commission, and that's how it came to be. But I don't think that was ever intended to be the end of the story by any means. I think we're kind of all reaching for what that next step might be. I certainly, you know, would agree that a traffic study might be the next step to take and to best resolve the issue.
Thank you for that. Mr. O'Rourke?
So we're in the process of implementing that traffic study. Talking with the administrators here, the mayor's office, appropriating the money. Once we have the money approved, mayor's office, city council, I can solicit bids and hire a traffic engineer to put some alternatives together, look at the existing condition, and perhaps propose a different condition. Okay. That's where we're at right now.
So how long, just a quick question from the chair, how long should that take? About, because they're looking for relief. I know they have a list of problems. I'll read them as soon as I get to them, but about how long?
If you have a time frame. If you don't, that's fine.
I don't have a time frame. I don't want to really commit a time
Okay,
frame right
yeah,
now.
that's fine.
I am on this. I'm committed to this. These people do very good work for the community. I understand that. I want to help them. At the same time, there's a lot of other things going on here in the city that draw my time away.
Sure.
So I am committed to doing this, and it will get done. I have mentioned a deadline of December. I'm still hoping that we can meet that.
That's feasible, okay. Before you start, they handed the council a current existing traffic conditions and possible problems there. And this is coming from the people representing the church. And number one, cars going up the one-way on Church Street at Island, ignoring stop sign and chevrons. Number two, capital waste truck goes up one way every Friday because truck cannot make Island. Number three, funeral, specifically October 8th, Mr. Cafaso Funeral Home had to park hearse and funeral cars wrong way in front of the church because limousine cars cannot make the turn at the Island. This caused extreme chaos. Police were called at church location. Number four, church vans and handicap vehicles can have difficulty at point of end of Island. Number five, difficulty for church oil delivery to drop off oil, then back up because of the one-way weekly during fall, winter. 6, church gets delivered every Friday for food delivery for Grace Food Pantry of Everett. That seems to be an issue. Problems, number 7, problems more emphasized during inclement weather, snow, i.e. Number 8, block party, July, no advance notice to property owners at 5052 Church Street. City blocked off all entrance to Church Street when there was a block party on Webster Street. There was no entrance to front of 50 and 52 Church building on that Saturday. This caused additional chaos because there are over 300 people in the building on any given Saturday.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, I'm not even on.
This is all part of the record, that's why I read it.
Okay.
Okay.
Tricky. No, thank you for letting us come tonight, but one thing, Mr. Rocco said that they want to, get a traffic study going. I don't know if that's the right word. My suggestion is, don't even waste your money. I've been doing this for a year. I go to the church 3 times a day because that's my job, that's my offices. I can tell you, what's there now does not work. Every Friday, it's on the list, that capital waste. Sometimes I think he's aiming for me because he goes that one way, and I got a small Jeep and he's big, and one day he's going to hit me, and I'm not going to back up for him because I'm going the way that the city has to go. It's just going to happen. And another thing I noticed too, and I'm not criticizing the police or the firemen, okay, but if the police and the firemen find it more feasible when there's a problem in the city, there's 3 instances. There was a lost child, there was a robbery at the bank, and there was another one, I don't know what it was, but they go the natural flow of Church Street from Broadway to Linden. It's natural, boom. Fire truck or policemen are not gonna go, oops, stop here, go up the island, because it's natural to go straight. But again, because it's one way this way, one of these days, firemen and police are gonna make a mistake and hit somebody. And I know they're doing a good job, I'm not talking about police, I love the policemen, but that's one thing that I say. That new thing on Friday, it's opening Sunday, my Grace Food Pantry, this is huge for the city of Everett. So, I get deliveries of food. I have $15,000 worth of food in my church at any given point now. For the last 5 weeks, trucks come in, vans come in. I'm really grateful that this food's coming in, praise God, but there's gonna be problems when the snow and ice, of course, I always say that, inclement weather, same thing with the oil delivery that I have. Those signs, chevrons, arrows, no matter what you put up there, right, it doesn't work. It's not natural. People don't see it. Someone's gonna get hurt, but there's nothing else I can say, but it does impact, like you said, it already impacts us over a year. We just pray every day someone would hear us so somebody doesn't get hurt. right?
Exactly, you summed it up.
I don't know what else to say.
Long and short, all the people want to do is just go to church and just worship and just have a normal service and everything, not be involved with traffic, who can't cut the island, who's going over the island. If you go look at it now, 2 big tire trucks, a truck must have made the island going up. They took out the dirt with them down the street. I mean, that's not normal. I mean, trucks can't make it. They do what they have to do to get by, I guess, whatever. But I know the city's working on it. Mr. O'Rourke, he's doing a good job. He's gonna try to get a traffic study going. Hopefully, he can rectify the problem and get it back to normal, some normalcy, whatever that may be. Get the street back the way it was.
Just-
Whatever works.
Just one more thing, the day of the funeral, I try to get a hold of anybody. I try to, because I try to get a hold of Peter, because he was down there, I saw you that day, a few weeks before. He's always working on the street trying to help us. So the day of the funeral, there's Fred Cafasso. There's like 7 guys, no lie. Me and Paul check it every hour, because that's our job. They're freaking out. They're like, are you kidding me? We had to come so early to bring the body early, to park in front of the church. Now, they can't park the way the city wants us to. They had to park the opposite way, because that funeral cannot go in front of the church and go up the aisle the wrong way, or the body's gonna go like down the island. Crazy. It's not, it's comical. It was a beautiful Saturday. I had to go there 4 times from 7 a.m. to 10. Is that even normal? So now all the poor men are there. I don't know what they're called, the crew that works for Freddie. I must have apologized 1,000 times. You know what I'm saying? Now, who comes along? Cruiser comes, boom, doesn't know why. The hearses are the wrong way in front of the church. Confusion. Thank God it was Officer Joe Bonone. They're all nice. And he even said, and they all say to me, why did they change it? I don't know. Come to a city meeting. I have no idea. The funeral was insane. It was a disgrace. God bless Freddie Cafasso for all that work he did and all those boys. Thank God they had a sense of humor.
Anything else?
That's what she summed it up.
That's it.
Okay. There's one more speaker on this. If you could just title and name, please, again, for the record.
Yes, good evening. Kevin O'Donnell, Chief of Staff. I just wanted to clarify that the funds are currently available, so we will be able to begin the process without delay. They have been appropriated, so, we can.
Amen.
Yeah.
See?
No need for
The
further
Lord
delay.
works in mysterious ways.
Thank God.
Amen to that.
Councilman Capone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I know this has been an issue for a long time. Mr. O'Rourke or Mr. Monty, do we even know why it was changed in the first place?
I think it was a situation similar to this, where there was just a lot of frustration over the configuration that it was prior to what it is now, and this was intended to see, would this improve the situation? I think we've come to the conclusion that it probably hasn't.
Yeah.
But I think we're at the point where we need to maybe take a broader view as to what's going on there, so.
What was the frustration? You had a street going one way, and you had another street going the other way, connecting 2 main drags.
Right, it was kind of what I said earlier, that you had people approaching the intersection on kind of the wrong side of the road, and that was creating, a fair amount of confusion, particularly if someone wasn't familiar with the intersection. It was very easy to end up, turning from Linden and be on the wrong side of either Church or Webster. So that,
Okay.
I think, was the root of the issue.
Right. And Mr. O'Rourke, how much do you think ballpark traffic study might be on this issue?
I have not developed a scope yet. As we continue with this meeting, the scope is expanding, because now I like to think that a meeting is appropriate with the leaders of the church here to get their input. I would estimate about $15,000 for this study.
Okay. And I'm not an engineer by any stretch, but I too share the concerns of the colleagues. When that configuration was first put into place, I couldn't understand why. I have come to appreciate that turn that takes you up Church and then down Webster, but I truly think the answer is to keep Church a one-way going from Broadway to Linden, extend out the island. It's been brought up by a colleague in the past. Extend out the island. I do like the turn, so that if you are going to City Hall or something like that, you'll take the swing and go down Webster. But Webster should be one way. It should be a right turn only. Webster should be one way going from Linden down to Broadway. And I think that not only will that serve the purposes of the congregation, I do think the general public at large would be served as well. You know, that's the way one-way streets work. You know, I don't need to tell you, you know how all this stuff works, but one-way street, you just go in one direction. And you don't have to worry about chevrons, you don't have to worry about other signs, you don't have to worry about two-way vehicle access on both Webster and Church, part like this way, part that way. But I think just make it simple. One way going out to Linden, have the one way coming from Linden on Webster out to Broadway, keep the turn, and I don't think we even need to spend the 15,000. But
I think that's a wonderful suggestion. I am just concerned that we might not have the widths of medians and so on to do this. I don't do this every day as a traffic engineer, but the experts we're going to be hiring know the books, know the rules and regulations, and they will be able to accept that or reject that suggestion based upon the rules and regulations, the Mass DOT, Federal Highway Administration, and so on. So I'm happy to pass it over to an expert to really vet out that idea and whether that's a valid idea or not.
okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Councilman Delasola.
I echo the same words, but I think when you take the right, you come up the street, take a right on Webster, that's fine. If you had the island move towards Linden, because even like I was saying earlier, making that left to try to get on Linden, it's crazy. So if you had the island, move it towards Linden and make it narrower, have the one-way going up to Linden like it was before. So you could take the right into Webster, go straight, and have the island to a point out near Linden with a sign, you know, stay to your left. So they come up by the church, they can take the left, maybe not have a right turn on to Linden from in front of the church. You have to go left, you can't go right. Unless you make the turn around the island and then take a right on Linden.
No, I think these are all valid points. I think, as Bill said, you know, having somebody who really knows this stuff probably better than we do, vet that out would be kind of the best course of action at this point, I think.
Now, you say 15,000, is that, you're saying you're gonna hire an expert? Is that including the expert, let's call?
I intend to hire a traffic transportation firm with 30 traffic experts in the office that can all rely on each other's experience to put this study together and so on.
And how much is that?
As I stated, I think $15,000.
That's including the work also? Or that's just for the idea
Oh,
of
no, this is just
design?
the study, just to put the study together, decide, okay, we want to recommend this option, bring it back to this council, have everybody agree upon it, and then undertake a design, and then implement a bid process to construct it. So we're in the infancy stages right now.
Here's a crazy question. How much do we pay for design that's there now? Who designed it now that's what
I
is
don't
causing a
think we
problem?
paid anything for the design right now. The person, well, the planning department put that sketch together and put it before the traffic commission, and that didn't cost us a dime.
Like Council Capone said, and we do want the input of the church in there, in a discussion to help us out with the final design. They might not be experts, but they're there every day, and they'll be dealing with this from the start to the finish. Thank you. Thank you.
Let me see. I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask from the chair. Let's see here. The money situation, that's all freed up now, that the cash, Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes, that's correct.
And that's for the study?
Yes.
Okay, that's the 15,000 for the study.
Yes.
So that should be readily available for us to get out there as soon as possible and, you know, put this out to bid so that we can have a firm come in.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. Mr. O'Rourke, when now would be the timeframe for the study? I understand where you're going with it. I really do, because you want to have some professional backing to say, you know, this is what it is, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to proceed. I understand that, but they're living it every day. So every day that we wait is a day that they're in misery. So we can't do that either. So When do you think that this will be done?
As I said, I'm hoping to have the study completed by December.
We can't do it any sooner because the money's just been allocated now.
I had to put a scope together, negotiate with the consultant, and then you had to take the time to put that together. Conservatively December, hopefully before that. We're also getting into the holidays and so on, people taking vacations.
Sure.
I think realistically December is the soonest I'd like to offer a conclusion.
Okay. Now,
Yeah, I just had a question. In the interim, because, you know, I know you guys, you know a lot more. Oops, I'm not on. Okay, in the interim, because prior to the change, Church Street was one way all the way to Linden, and Webster was a two-way. So my question is, while you're conducting your study, to make our life a little bit easier, because it's been really difficult, why couldn't we just go back to the way it was? Because somebody put it in motion this way. That's one question. My second question is, $15,000? I mean, I run a church. I mean, it just seems like there's so much more probably that you could do with that money to help children in this city. $15,000. I could give you a report. I'm there 3-4 times a day. I could get a report from free. And we don't get a vacation. We don't get a vacation from church at all. You're saying people are going to get a vacation and that it may not be ready to December? Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, my birthday, it doesn't matter what. We're there 3-4 times a day. So I would suggest, maybe these people could hold off on their vacation, make our lives just a tad bit nicer, and try to resolve it before then. Because, again, the food bank is coming. I didn't expect this, right?
No, unexpectedly dropped off.
From Greater Food Bank of Boston. This is what I keep saying. It benefits all of Everett. So just a little bit of help, a little bit of consideration. Maybe someone can not take a vacation, get it done a little bit quicker, and save $15,000.
Councilman Delasola?
It's crazy.
Is there a way we could open up where the church is now, that we can go straight to Linden? I mean, like we're saying, to wait till December, and now we're not gonna see anything change out there until the spring. So could we open up the street up to Linden? Right now, you have to take a right and then a left. Traffic.
It's,
With the
Counselor.
traffic
I'll
commission?
it's in Traffic Commission. It was there, correct? And did you get a report back from them on which way they wanted to handle this from traffic?
I have not talked to Traffic Commission.
Oh, okay.
I cannot just go out there and change signs immediately. I have to go through Traffic Commission.
Yes.
I haven't
That's
been
fine.
through that process before. I don't
Okay.
know how long that takes. But I would suggest proceeding through the Traffic Commission.
Maybe we could expedite that by sending it through the, we're gonna try. Just so that you
Find out when
know.
the next meeting is.
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
mean, that's a good item right there.
Find out when the
because
traffic, next meeting is, and put it on the
It should be,
agenda.
what is it, monthly?
Thanks.
It's monthly, so we should be able to get it on for the next month coming up.
Okay.
So depending on what date that is, it'll be in November.
Correct.
I know that. But it might even be at the end of October. I don't know
That's
when
what
they
it- the
meet.
sooner the
So,
better.
the sooner the better. I understand. You all set, Counsel?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Just so that you understand, from the church, I was the one that put the piece on, and I know that my colleagues went down there and visibly looked at the area, all of them, a majority of them went
Oh,
down
no,
there.
I know.
So, we're here to help, okay, and we're going to help. So it seems like we have to do these steps, and these are the steps that we have to proceed with, but it's the way that we have to do things, okay? So, just bear with us, we're gonna try to expedite it as quickly as possible. I know you've been waiting a while. I know, I understand, I spoke to you outside about it, and we're doing our job to make sure that it gets done right, and it's done, according to help you people out.
Thank you.
Okay.
It helps a lot, lots and lots of people.
Councilman Capone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to reiterate, it is the Traffic Commission. You're absolutely right, Mr. O'Rourke. None of us can go down there and change signs. It's Traffic Commission. We can very easily get that on the agenda. It's a very simple thing to do, and we can do that before we proceed down that road, which I do think is the proper way to go. Do either Mr. Monti or yourself have any concerns from a safety point of view if we requested Traffic Commission to make one way going from Broadway to Linden, one way from Linden on Webster down to Broadway?
You know, I think it did function that way before, but
Yeah.
it functioned poorly. So,
Okay.
you know, is it gonna be better than it is now? For some folks, yes. for some folks, maybe not.
Okay.
Certainly, I don't think it's gonna solve the issue, it's gonna put us back where we were before, so I think it's still worth going through this process. You know,
Okay.
the other thing just to keep in mind is that one of the reasons it was changed is that again, that wrong way thing is, were there were to be an accident there, it's a little hard to defend, you know, that's a.
I'm
proper-
still
yeah,
confused about what was the frustrations that was being
If
corrected.
you're at the end of Church Street,
Yep.
you're on the left side of the road, at the intersection.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So, yeah, if you extended out the island, then
Right.
you're fine.
So
Okay.
somebody coming up Linden, going to make a right,
Okay,
unexpectedly can come and hit you. And I think that was the concern.
okay.
So, you know, again, in the unfortunate situation, there was an accident, that could be tricky to, you know, defend. The hope is, I think, with the study, to have somebody look at that and really say with a professional eye,
Mhm.
maybe that is okay, maybe that is, you know, the way it can operate. But I think, you know, we didn't feel comfortable at the time that was, you know, okay, so.
Okay.
I concur with Mr. Monty. I'm very concerned about these traffic conflicts. I think we've been very lucky that we have mostly local people driving these streets, and we've had no accidents. However, these conflicts do still exist, and they're wrong. If we go to the Traffic Commission to put things back the way they were, things will be wrong. I have concern about that. I'd rather hire the consultant, have him make the recommendations, and implement those recommendations, which will follow the rules and regulations of the MUTCD and the federal highway standards for designing roadways.
Okay, and then that's why I asked. I wanted to know what your thoughts were. And I understand about you have the possibility of vehicles coming at that point going in opposite directions. Could we maybe address that with like the cones? You know, they have like the little standing cones, instead of actually constructing an island out to the Linden Street area. If we did those cones, it would provide a very affordable, inexpensive means of clearly indicating this lane is for this flow of traffic and that lane's for the other. It might alleviate that concern.
I think I'd still want to have a professional opinion on that.
Sure.
I don't feel comfortable
Okay,
kind of making that recommendation.
okay.
Again, if somebody with a PE or a PTOE, you know, a licensed person says that's fine, then by all means, but,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not quite comfortable
Okay.
making that.
Counsel, I know
Thank
that Councilman Capone had input, so I'll allow it. Oh, Councilman Napolitano, sorry.
Okay, the only issue I have with this, first of all, I have no problem with the traffic study. I think it's important for liability purposes to get it right. I do have a problem with retaining the existing system as a precursor to having a traffic study done because, let's face it, the existing configuration was not put in by anyone with traffic experience. Okay, so why are we clinging to a process that was put in place by non-experts so we can have an expert take a look at it? I think it's more critical to put it back the way it was, let the traffic experts then look at the problem fresh, not the problem the way it's been configured now, which is creating additional problems. You know, I mean, I agree with the issue about the concerns about turning left onto Linden, but that's happening right now. When you turn right onto Webster and then left to go out to Linden, you still have to turn into that. And as far as cars turning into Webster Street, cutting across the front of Church Street, that's happening right now in the current configuration. Okay, people do what they think is the right way to do when they see any lack of direction. And the signs and all that lend that direction. Do not enter one side, enter to the left. You know, I don't have a problem with waiting till the traffic study to get the problem resolved in a permanent manner for the liability and the expertise that's involved with it. And yes, I agree, $15,000 may seem like a lot of money, but there is a cost to doing business, and unfortunately, getting the experts to do it right, that's the cost. And that's why these things go out to bid. I believe the city engineer is suggesting it could be up to $15,000 with a bid process. It could be less, could be more. But the bottom line is getting it right. But personally, I don't think we need to stay married to the current configuration. We're aware of the new set of problems that have presented themselves with this new configuration. Okay? And all it's doing is hiding the existing problems that were there in the first place. So, personally, I think that, and if any of my colleagues are amenable to this, I'll put a piece together to send to traffic suggesting that it be changed, even if temporary in the interim. We're clinging to something that's not working that was designed by non-experts, so we can have experts come in and fix it. Let's put it back the way it was and let the experts take a look at it in a fresh way. That's my opinion, and I will
Mr.
stick
O'Rourke?
with that.
Thank you for that, Counsel.
Counselor Napolitano, since we have met, I have learned.
Through
who is-
me. It goes through me. Go ahead.
Correct. Since the counselor and I met in the field, I did learn who had put the traffic sketch together, and it was put together by our planning department.
Sure.
Planning department has quite a bit of experience. They're not registered experts, but they have experience. They have traffic studies. They've taken traffic study courses and so on in school, and they have an idea. So to characterize them as non-experts, I wouldn't quite say that. But I would recommend that we leave it the way it is now. It's not perfect, but it eliminates those traffic conflicts that Mr. Monti discussed earlier. What we have now is not ideal, but what we have now minimizes conflicts and potential accidents. And I prefer to leave it that way than to put it back, have that one rare accident, and then we all get in trouble.
That being said, on that, well, with 15,000 that we're going to expend on this to get the experts their opinion, we don't want them to say, oh, well, just put it back the way it used to be. We don't want that happening either. So what we want is we want a solution, and we want to fix down there, and we don't want, let's just put it back the way it used to be. We're not going to accept that, of course. I know that. So the way that it is now is not working the way it used to be until we had many members from a church now occupying that, various hours, all kinds of activity going on at this church. The old way, it was kind of bad too. That's why they were here. That's why we put this piece on the calendar. So you have two bad items right now going on there, and it's a bad situation for that church. We need to do as much as possible to alleviate that so that they can have some type of relief. So that's why we're here, but I would not accept us spending $15,000 on a traffic study and then them coming back and saying, oh, no, we're not going to do anything with this island, or we're not going to change the flow of traffic, or that effect. I wouldn't accept that. So I just want everyone to know that now. But that being said, go ahead, sir.
You know, I was just gonna say, they were talking about put it back the way it was temporarily by cones and whatnot. I drive the expressway every day. If you're going down from going north, going southbound,
You need a Jersey barrier.
not even Jersey Valley, they have the
You need
temporary-
something bigger than a cone.
They
I
have the
understand that.
temporary islands that they put out.
Yes.
That people stay in the lanes.
Yeah.
But that's if you, instead of cones, because cones can be knocked over and moved, these things are lagged to the ground and they stay there. People have to stay and follow the way it goes. I see, during the day, it's just another feasible option. Or the other thing is, this project's not getting done until the spring. Wait till the first time the guy goes to plow the street going this way and takes a left. You won't have much of an island left. Unless he goes the wrong way up the street, which would be illegal. If we have a decent winter. That's all.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. O'Rourke. Respond.
I do like that suggestion quite a bit, but I'd like to have the traffic study done. We'll get the recommendations, the sketches, and so on, and we can have a temporary situation that we could perhaps implement with our own DPW.
I'm all for that. I think the committee's all for
So there are
that.
some options. We're willing to work with everybody.
Mr. O'Rourke, I truly believe that, and I'm not speaking for the whole committee, I mean, I'm for that. Just getting the opinions of these other people to come in and actually back up what's going to be happening there. But it can't be the same idea or the previous idea, because those two didn't work. And that's what we're stating. Councilman Della Sola.
The people are gonna hire the experts to look at this. Could they look at a temporary solution for now? To give us an idea on a temporary solution until we come up with a permanent one?
I surmise that the temporary solution will be a version of the final solution. Meaning to say, if they are intending to extend islands and curbing, granite curbing and so on, then we can get temporary barriers that we can pin down onto the asphalt to represent the granite curbing that will eventually be installed come the spring. So, yes, we can implement a temporary situation that I would imagine would be representative of the final solution.
And you say we're not gonna meet the designers until December, is that correct?
I think we can have a resolution to the study, the alternatives, by December. And at that point, I bring it before the council. We all agree upon what is the solution, and then we can hire a consultant for the design. And by that time, it'll be springtime. We'll bid it out for the springtime and start construction April 1st.
I wanna be safe here, but we're trying to get us, look, we all are here, everybody sitting here, have a solution. It might sound crazy, before Christmas, with what's going on out there.
Before the inclement weather.
Yes.
Have something in play.
Some kind of solution, that's why I'm hoping we can meet before December with the engineer. If he could just give us a quick design, and if it's gonna cost, I don't wanna say, $1,000 to have him come in next week and give us a quick temporary design, I mean, I'm no expert on traffic, but to look at that, if you do this every day as a designer, it can't take that long for you to say, if you put the barriers like this for now, that's how I would do it, and then we'll design a permanent one in December for the spring.
I fully agree. They're probably gonna know immediately. Most of the time, it's probably gonna be putting the sketches and the verbiage together and putting a report together. I think they're gonna have the solution fairly quickly, perhaps a week of studying it.
Correct.
And maybe they can put us a memo together to give us the solution that we might think about implementing.
Now, this has to go up for bid, correct?
No.
It does not have to go up for bid?
No.
So we could pick a designer, call them up, say, here's our situation.
That's correct. Professional services are not required to go to bid.
Perfect.
Now, just to alleviate the question I can see coming, when can we propose something will be done there? Like, soon? So maybe a temporary fix for now? I mean, is there any way that you can come to some type of agreement with the church individuals here representing the church to see how that would be plausible to do a temporary fix before the inclement weather? That's what we're trying to do now. I think that's where we're going on this.
I can work with the traffic consultant to see if I can get a temporary solution ASAP. That's all I can promise. I don't know what that time frame would be. I don't know the number of alternatives they may offer. I don't know the impacts of all these different alternatives we may have to consider.
Sure.
I don't have the answer. I
Okay.
don't have the time frame at this time.
All right.
Just got one last
Yeah.
statement or question. The property there at 50 and 50 Church Street is nonprofit, owned by the church. We are the only buildings there affected by this change. My statement or question is, this has been going on since way before July 2015. I know, because that's when my father got sick before he passed away. If I were a beauty shop or an auto body and I generated business in Everett, would it take a business owner, because I don't really know, because I don't work for the city, I don't have your job, but would someone that owned a business here have to come and fight for 2 years to get some kind of sense in front of their business? I know we're a church, though. So, I mean, we can't fight, we can just state the facts, but it's taken a long time.
We understand, and what we're trying to do is expedite that now.
Yeah.
And we're doing it, although it's seeming slow, like a snail's pace, we're trying to do it and expedite it. So
Thank you.
as soon as we can get the answers down from traffic to Mr. O'Rourke, possibly we may want to even include these two people to come and just be there at the site when they're looking at it, so that everybody's getting an idea of what's going on. You know, that might be a feasible thing to do. I think when we had it in our, before we sent it to committee, we suggested that all of us from this council go down to the site and take a look at what was going on. That did not happen. There was only individuals that went down on their own accord. So now I think it's time that that does happen. So we should work with the individuals from the church, the city, and then traffic, so that we can come up with probably a temporary fix before we can actually go out for the $15,000 traffic study and the flow study and whatever we're gonna be studying there for the engineering part of it all. Feasible?
Could you reiterate that? You're suggesting we come up with a temporary solution in-house?
Before
the experts come in
So
and
the-
suggest,
there's two ways that it, I understand, Mr. O'Rourke. I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is this. These people there are living it right now. We're not. We said we would help them. We're going to, but it's going to take a period of time before that help comes, according to what you're saying, sometime in December. They're saying inclement weather makes it very difficult for this church to operate. So how do we help this church now without affecting them and making it a safe environment there? How do we do that? I think what we can do now is we can have yourself, Mr. Monty, these two individuals from the church, and traffic there to figure out the best way that we should go, right there, and have everyone involved so that we understand, okay, this may be a temporary fix, but we have to see what the ultimate is going to be with the $15,000 that we're going to expend for a professional to come in and take a look at it. That's all. Counselor?
Me personally, I'd rather have, if we're gonna spend money on the engineer that designed this, I'd rather see him within, let's say, 2 weeks, design or give us a temporary plan.
Can that be done?
that's possible.
Okay.
I'd much prefer that than try to decide amongst ourselves.
Absolutely,
the
because
best
we already
resolution.
tried that twice now and it didn't work. So if we could actually get it done before December, and I think, I mean, we're feeling their frustration. So if we could get it done before, December, get a professional in, that's sort of what we're looking at. If we could do that, that would be feasible. Do you agree, councilors?
Yes, can we
Okay.
put this in, let's say a second meeting in November?
Yes.
On the agenda? And at that point, we'll see, hopefully, if we have the temporary design, or they will be there within a day or two from that meeting.
And that we had someone professional come out and take a look at it and give you some guidance on that.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to run this by our auditor.
Mhm.
I am not going to step outside the procurement laws.
Absolutely.
to
I want
get
you to
this
take all
done.
necessary
Right.
legal action. That's what I want. So that the city's covered and that these individuals feel relief. So that's what we're looking at. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna refer this, someone make a motion on that? Del?
I'll motion that.
Motion to, excuse the customary thanks. Thank you for all appearing tonight.
Thank you.
You can stay around after. We'll talk about it after, but we're going to refer this to the next meeting in November for this committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And Mr. O'Rourke, we would want a response back on which way it's going, and if you could appear again at that, we'll invite everybody back up again. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to keep it, refer it to the November meeting. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, John. Yep. Please read the next item.
Item number 7. This is a resolution by Councilor Stephen Simonelli to set up a memorial site for former Councilor Joe King.
Councilor Simonelli, please come up. You want me to read it? I can read it.
Yeah, I'll have Freddie read it. Councilman Simonelli, yeah, just, you can hang right here, right next to Fred, please. It's Councilman Simonelli. He's going to be, Councilman Capone will be reading a couple of the requests that the councilor has.
We have a number of suggestions. First and foremost, Mr. Chairman, I know that we all commend Council Simonelli on this piece. Everyone who knew Joe loved Joe.
Oh.
Even those who didn't love Joe loved
Loved
Joe.
Joe.
He was a good guy. He did a lot for the community. Even after he was no longer in public office, he did things behind the scenes, made lots of donations to the community, different things. So on behalf of the entire body, we do commend you on this piece as we did
Thank
that
you.
night. So some of the suggestions that Council Simonelli had was perhaps something at Golden Age Circle, renaming or making somewhere near the property Union Street, because Joe lived right up the street from there. Rename a street in his honor somewhere. Memorial at Gastoff Park and Nickel Street. Maybe a new wall at Mount Washington Street. Perhaps a little park on the side of City Hall at Church Street. Front lawn at the old high school. Could be some sort of a dedication there. A tot lot behind the Cavarian School. These are all wonderful suggestions, and I know that we would all work together to do something befitting of the man. And I don't know if there's any other input. I know we all feel the same way, and if it's all right with Council Simonelli, I would be recommending that we made a motion out of this body to the main body, looking for favorable action on it, referring it to the mayor's office. And we could supply the list that Council Simonelli provided and any other ideas that folks may have.
No, I just want to make a
Is that-
comment. It's a
is-
great piece to,
Thank you.
great piece to recognize individuals that live in Everett, grew up in Everett, and stay in Everett, especially on the city council for many, many years, and never left Everett, stayed in Everett, and it's a great thing. Thank you.
And the motion would be to send this out to the main body and with the recommendations provided, as well as send this additionally to the mayor's office with the recommendations as well. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Simonelli. Thanks, Steve. Could we read item number 8? Thank you. Thanks, Bob. All right.
Item number 8, this is a resolution by Councilors Capone, Matusky, Napolitano, and McLaughlin. This is regarding excessive airplane noise.
I have a correspondent. I'll read just the top sheet because it's lengthy. This was handed to Councilman Matusky for his perusal, as well as the other councilors on the board. They have it in front of them. That's number 8. Caroline, nice speaking with you. As I mentioned, staff unfortunately will not be able to attend this week's meeting. However, please note that Massport is working closely with the FAA and Massachusetts congressional delegation, Congressman Capuano, on a proposed pilot program to address some of the concerns related to the RNAV program. I have attached a press release related to a recent meeting we had here 2 weeks ago at Logan on this very issue. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, Anthony Guerrero. I see Councilman Matusky. Could you please come up, gentlemen, on this issue? Just state your names and titles, please. Councilman, did you have a chance to read this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I actually did read it. It was nice to finally, well, I'll let them introduce
Yeah, and-
themselves and then.
I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to read it before. Mr. Souza, you can just all state your names and titles, please, for the record.
Captain Richard Bastieri.
Good evening, Tony Sousa, Planning Director.
Thank you.
Kevin O'Donnell, Chief of Staff.
Thank you. Mr. Souza, do you have a chance to read this? Did you
I
know
did.
about? Okay, awesome. And Captain Basteria as well? It was an article that a press release that they're working, it's Massport and FAA, work to reduce overnight flying noise, as well as Anthony Guerrero, basically sending the letter out that they met with Congressman Capuano on this, just to bring you up to speed on it. Councilman Matusky, did you have?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the committee. I know it's getting a little late here this evening. And I want to thank Captain Basteri and Mr. Sousa and Mr. O'Donnell for actually being here. This is good news from Massport that we received on this press release here. They're working to reduce the noise levels over all cities. You know, and I had the opportunity to speak to Congressman Lynch just last week.
Good
and
guy.
He's quite upset about the complaints he's received in his office. But there's some hope here. You know, we can't let happen what happened a few months ago. It's got quieter too, I'm happy to report, at least in my neighborhood. But we can't allow the quality of life 20 hours straight, a plane every minute. It's not happening. And I just want to say there was an article in one of either the Herald or the Globe, and somebody referred to it, the airplane noise is it's like having railroad tracks above your home or your property. That's just, and that's a true analogy for me, because I actually live near the railroad tracks. But Captain Basteri is here to explain the noise machine that we, the decibel reader. And he's informed me that's why we're actually here tonight. And of course, Mr. Sousa is on the Community Action Board for Massport. But I had a discussion with the captain, and I'd like him to explain the device that he has is not capable of doing what we want it to do to monitor the noise levels. But I'll let him explain that, if that's okay.
Captain, knowing that we do have ordinances in place for this, as well as there's laws in place, I believe, for noise control as well, we anticipate that this machine here is probably from noise from traffic and radios and stuff like that, trucks and stuff
Exactly.
like that. Okay.
It's a, it's not a machine, it's a meter.
Yes.
It's about a $20 meter that's registered noise, decibels. Seldom used, it can be used if we have complaints of loud music, house parties, but normally that's common sense, so they're not needed. But it could be used, the ordinance says, you stand at somebody's property line and measure it from there. It doesn't have the capability, obviously, to measure, airplanes, obviously it's limited in its use.
Sure. Thank you. Mr. Souza, what do you have on this? Because this report it's pretty lengthy. It's a news release that they just put out.
Yes.
Seems like it's in a positive manner. You got Senator Markey's comments here. You got Capuano, Congressman Capuano, so you got some good people working on it as well. So
Certainly. I'll just be very brief with respect to this agreement, this MOU between the FAA and Massport. This was signed early in October this month, and it is very positive, again, to reduce that persistent concentration of airplane noise.
Sure.
With respect to the CAC, the Community Advisory Committee, which I represent the city of Everett, we plan on having a meeting in December, and we will get our first briefing in more detail about how this will proceed, what exactly in greater detail they'll be looking at, and also how the public participation process will, certainly something that we certainly would be very interested in, how the public participation process.
let me ask you a
will
question
work.
on that. I don't want to interrupt, but
Sure.
on that, could we invite one of the members of our board to go, or could you
It's-
invite one of the
Certainly,
members?
it is a public meeting.
Sure.
And,
So they could come if they'd like?
yes, and I'd certainly be happy to inform.
Sure. If you're gonna,
Everyone.
just put out the invite and the dates, times, and stuff like that, then we could have individuals that are concerned with this go.
Sure.
Because I feel that it would be very informative for some of the people here, that they could come back with an informative, information from that meeting. But continue, sorry.
Actually, that was all that I had.
Thank you. You have anything to add, Mr. O'Donnell?
Oh, no, I would just like, I couldn't add any more than what Mr. Souza has already added, but I just applaud him and Councilman Matusky on their diligent efforts with this issue.
Thank you. Councilman Delasola.
Would Massport have a meter in their possession that they could set up in Everett to get these readings that we're looking for?
There is a meter. It's on Bell Rock Street at the old Diorio Trucking Repair Shop. There's a little grassy area, I think Massport. We sent the building department down there, Mr. Sopa, our director of the building department, and I asked them to find out if it was actually working. Excuse me. And they said it is working. It's been there for many years. But if it was working during these periods of high rates of flights overhead, then Massport surely would have known about it. You can't expect people to actually call, because they changed, for whatever reason on the phone. They claimed there was only 98 people last year that complained, but there was a heck of a lot more that called me. But anyway, make a long story short, they claim that antenna is working, our building department. So they are aware of it, but they can shift these flight patterns kind of 2 blocks that way. You'd be surprised what a difference a shifting of the plane pattern can make. And I think they're going over the path of least resistance is where I live, in Councilor Capone. And, they're low, number one. Maybe when some of these hotels go up on the Parkway, they'll have to shift it and so forth. And I'm concerned, the low levels that they're flying. I've never seen them come so low. And, I've told you before that there's illnesses caused by, if you think what comes out of a bus, it smells kind of lousy. Stuff that comes out of a plane, I read the health reports, it's this thick, it's like 3 phone books. And it's really poisonous stuff that comes out of jets. And that comes over our homes. And if a plane goes by every minute, and it's no exaggeration, Councilor Capone lives it, I live it, every minute for 20 hours or 15 hours or 10 hours, it's really kind of a scary situation. But it seems like we're making progress. And my recommendation to the board, to this committee, is to let Mr. Sousa explain our concerns. We want some fairness here. We're an impacted community, and let's be good neighbors. I'm not against they're expanding Terminal E, by the way, which has got a lot of people in East Boston upset. Terminal E is going to be enlarged with 9 extra flight takeoff areas. And I've been reading about it, but it's a complicated situation, So I'm trying to learn as I go along. Massport is a big organization. They have a lot of employees from Everett. And, but moving forward, I think that, we have the police department informed now of our concerns. The health department is informed. There are some lawsuits pending. Even Congressman Lynch told me that. There's a class action lawsuit possibly going to happen with people who are affected by the noise and the pollution and so forth. But I feel comfortable with Mr. Sousa's progress that he's going to address in December. So with that, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but it's been quiet for at least a month now. You don't mind a plane every couple of hours or something, but not the way it's been. But
Well, through the chair, I want to commend you. This is going to be the longest battle on an item on our agenda, I think, in Everett history. And you haven't given up, and I commend you for that.
Oh, thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Are you all set, Counsel?
I am, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to our guests, I as well would commend the good counselor. We both are living that flight pattern in Ward 1. So we know it has gotten better. Still quite loud, but it's gotten better. And through the chair to
Sure.
Councilor De La Sola, the antenna splits our old stomping grounds. It's right in the middle of Prescott Street and Everett Street, where we both grew up. So, you know, it'd be good to get the monitoring for that.
Yes.
down there. Mr. Souza, as our representative, that meeting in December, do you know, is it early December, or has the date been set, or not yet?
We're actually working on on making sure we have a quorum for the date's been set for December 8th at the State Transportation Building. The time now escapes me. The challenge with our group is it is a large group, but also the threshold to have a quorum is larger. But we do hope to have a quorum for December 8th. Nonetheless, if it does not occur, please trust, I will follow up directly with the team at Massport to relay what's been shared to me through this council and certainly through the mayor's office as well.
Great. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. I have a few from the chair. Mr. Souza, just to reiterate, so you'll be getting that date and times
Yes.
to the council, also to the police as well, and possibly the mayor's office as well. So, you know, someone could attend to actually gain some knowledge of what's really going on down there. As far as the device, the monitoring device, is that running or not running? And maybe that's a question for Mr. Matusky, because the one that you sent Mr. Sopo down to, is that one running? Is that active?
According to the building department, it is, but it's been there for, I want to say 30 years that I know
Did they
about.
report back who's getting the recordings of that?
That's what I'd like to get.
So
Can we
maybe
request
that's
that?
a feasible question.
Is
yeah.
that possible? I don't know what that antenna or what that device actually does.
Yeah.
If it's a noise monitoring device, it should be able to give you information. And that information, well, maybe it's in the wrong location too. Maybe they're not getting the noise. I think that Ward 6 is getting the noise levels.
I think, Mr. Souza, that question there, to find out, would probably, you'd probably be the man to do that, I would think, if that is actually recording and monitoring.
That's a very, very good question, certainly, and I will follow up on that.
Okay. What I'd like to, Councilman Del Sol?
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Can we get the flight pattern where the planes go and maybe put the antenna over to where the flight pattern is going over Mr. Matusky's area? That can be asked also?
Sure, I'll do my best. I will ask the question and I will get an answer.
Thank you.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Anything from the board out there?
I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you've been in contact quite a bit. My condolences to you on your father's passing away the other day.
Thank
And,
you.
thank you for the time in this matter, and I hope it gets resolved for the fairness to this community. And I think when the Revere Beach Parkway, because that is the flight pattern, maybe when some of these high-rise hotels go up, they'll have to switch it to over the water more. Then, you know, and well, I'm just looking for the future. Everybody wants to enjoy their property and enjoy life and a peaceful atmosphere. You know, and I want to thank the captain and the chief of staff for being here this evening along with Mr. Sousa on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. So, excuse the customary thanks. Thank you, gentlemen, for all appearing. Grant further time, request that they come back with
Exactly.
the answers.
I'd make a motion that we lay this over to a meeting in either mid or late December, so that we could have Mr. Souza back and whomever else wants to come back to let us know what happened at that CAC meeting and
Sure.
what the answers are to those questions that we posed this evening.
Motion made to, and seconded to lay this over to the December meeting of the government operations. Invite all the gentlemen back that were here tonight and have the answers to the questions that we had for tonight's meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so.
Please read item number 9.
Item number, this is item number 9, this is a resolution offered by Council Peter Napolitano. The city services appear to discuss how city manages low-hanging branches.
I have a correspondent here from Kevin Noonan down in the city yards, and also he CC'd Jerry Navarro as well. It's on your desk, it should be, gentlemen, and basically out to the sponsor, I believe, as well. Hi, Caroline. I want to follow up on the tree issue mentioned below from Councilman Napolitano. Trevor Liberty from TDL is the City of Everett part-time tree warden. We have a list of tree issues at the DPW for when residents call in to report an issue. We also have a new system throughout the city in which the residents can dial 311. That number again is 311 to report issues. This includes dead branches, low-hanging branches, overgrown branches, brush calls, chipper truck, as well as the tree perceived to be dead. Tree crew is given a list of these issues daily. The trees perceived to be dead are inspected by the tree warden, and if deemed to be dead, there is a tree hearing posted on site for 48 hours, as well as advertised in the local newspapers prior to the removal. Any objections to the removal must be submitted to the tree warden via email or in writing prior to or during the hearing. The mailing address for objections should be sent to the attention of the city arborist at the DPW address of 19 Norman Street, Everett, Mass. 02149. His email is service@tdlLanscaping.com. The city arborist, as for damages incurred to personal property by a city tree, the resident must submit a claim of damages to the city clerk's office. In the event the damage is reported on the day of said event and the damage is on the city's property, i.e. vehicle and/or street, to the DPW tree foreman and crew is sent to the access of damage, and the foreman takes pictures upon arrival before cleaning up begins. Once a claim is submitted to the city clerk's office, it is then sent to the city solicitor. The claimant is then notified by the city insurer. Hope this is helpful. Thank you, Mr. Noonan. Councilman Napolitano. I know you've been waiting diligently in the crowd there for this.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm sorry for not being in the room when you brought the piece on the agenda, but I was out speaking to the Cardellos about the Church Street situation. But thank you. I did receive the letter. I did receive notification that none of the other invitees would be here. I'm fine with this, but the only concerns I have is that, as in most things, I'm always concerned with reactive approaches to things when I think there could be a more proactive approach. You know, I got contacted by a resident on Upper Florence Street, who showed me some pictures of a dead tree that had been there for a few years that finally collapsed and crushed an SUV last summer. City came down, took the tree out, trucks towed away. There's still, 2 months later, still a big gaping hole there where the tree was, and the sidewalk is all still forced. You know, we're not seeming to, and most people I've spoken to over this that brought me to putting this on our agenda, we're all dealing with situations where these were known dead trees, and nobody did anything about them until they caused damage. Now, we've had a relatively dry summer this year, you know, with the drought that we experienced. If we have a mild winter, it might not be so bad. We get a heavy winter, even anything close, even half as bad as it was in 2015, these dead trees are going to come down, you know, and they're going to cause damage. And part of the problem is getting ahead of, once you've identified where the dead trees are and addressed them, Then it's just a question of managing the remaining trees. But we're looking at years of these trees not being addressed until there's a problem. And that's where I'm concerned with. So I just wanted to, that was what my hope was that we could have a discussion with the principals involved here about possibly taking a more progressive, proactive approach to this. And perhaps they are, and if they are, to me, it wasn't completely spelled out in this letter. You know, they rely on residents to call it in, or residents to identify it, and that's fine. But how often do they patrol the city or just take a ride through, even if they did it quarterly, just to take a look to see how many trees down the village look like they're dying or could be a potential problem with a heavy snowstorm? How many trees up by the Hospital Hill, you know, or down near Edith Street Park? It's a big city, but it's not a big city. Okay, we have a very small square mileage. How difficult is it, especially given the number of trees that we have been replacing over the last 20 years? Most new streets have all got brand new trees. So how hard is it to just focus on the older streets that haven't been addressed yet to try to identify these problems? You know, those are my concerns, and I just want to see if the city can take a more proactive approach here, so we don't have a dead tree crushing an SUV or another car. I'm aware a woman I work with had her car damaged just after she paid it off. Tree fell down this past spring, heavy windstorm. You know, stuff is always going to happen, and yeah, you can always classify it as an act of God. But if we're aware that there's a potential problem there, and the tree experts are not identifying that, yeah, this tree is dead, or this one's got some dying branches, and taking steps to prevent this, then aren't we to some degree liable as well? I know we can do it with the insurance, but I don't know what the outcome insurance-wise with the SUV on Florence Street, but the person I work with down on Main Street has already been denied by the city's insurance company. She's given up. There's got to be an easier way. We're always talking about watching out for the best interests of our residents, and I think this is one of them. Because again, we have a heavy winter this year. Anything that died over the summer because of the drought, we're going to see it on the ground. I mean, that's just we've all seen examples of this. I don't think I'm overstating it.
Councilman Capone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Councilman Napolitano. Yeah, all valid points. We've got their response. I understand what you're saying. This being your piece, what would you like the committee to do? Are you all right with us referring this back to sponsor and you'll follow that up?
Yes.
Individual department, or did you want some other action?
No, absolutely. I'm not looking for the council to take it any further. We have a response. I know who to respond back to, and I'll take it on a personal level. And if I feel that there's any issues there or something that I need the council's support on, I'll most definitely put it back on the agenda. But at this phase, I'm content with the response. I know who I need to talk to now to talk about my ideas on how I think it should be a little more proactive, if it's even feasible. But, you know, so I'm content with that.
Okay. Thank you. I have no other questions.
Let's see here. What did I do? In reading this, Councilman, they gave like a list of numbers like for you to call, the 311 number. They also gave an email address, which is the arborist email address, which is service@tdlandscaping.com. They also gave an address, 19 Norman Street, and address it to the arborist, City of Everett, DPW, 19 Norman Street, Everett, Mass. So there's a couple of outlets that they can go to, relying on, you know, the people of Everett to do that.
Right.
But I agree, if we have an arborist, if he is, you know, like part-time and he has to actually go out there and check out these different situations that are happening, maybe now he'll get some calls, and maybe we'll be able to actually, you know, look at the stuff before it's dead and falling on people's cars. I mean,
Well, that's
tragic.
right. That was what actually prompted this. My work colleague had got a letter saying that the the Arbor Department had stated, some issues on this. I wasn't even aware we had an Arbor Department. Any of you?
I think we allocated funds for it, that's what I remember,
And,
but.
I never see it on a budget, and other things too, like the 311. It's great to hear that. How much have we heard about that here? I try not to be,
These were,
closet.
both these issues, I can recall, but I don't really remember hearing about it.
But as far as it
until
being
just now.
public knowledge.
Oh, yeah, right
that's-
now, that's why I'm
Yeah.
reading it over and over and
Yeah.
over again, and hopefully with the concept that the people that are watching tonight or throughout the month, they get the hint and they actually call for this, so maybe we could, kick that out there on ECTV or something
Most
to that
definitely.
effect, and then just get these things out there to the people.
Actually,
So-
if I could ask the committee if they could make a recommendation that information be posted.
On
On
ECTV.
ECTV.
Okay.
And that way there, at least
That
we're
would be
getting.
the
inf-
recommendation coming out.
Yeah, because that way there, again, I never even considered this until somebody approached me about it. And then I got other calls. And then it was like all of a sudden there was a spotlight on something that nobody had said anything about prior to this.
Yeah.
Now, again, whatever the cause or reasons may be, doesn't change the fact that it exists.
Sure.
So, and that's how we do 90% of what we do on the job as it is. And we are aware of a problem, and then we try to figure out how to fix it. And then we notice that maybe that's a little more extensive than we anticipated, and it's more of a broader issue. So, yeah, I really appreciate your time and your indulgence on this. So, yeah, that's what I would ask, that we do get that information posted, so this way here, perhaps we can assist them. And I'll reach out and talk to them directly now that I've got
It's
I've got some
Mr.
names.
Noonan, Jerry Navarro, and also the Arbor. They don't have a name. I don't think I have a name here for him, but
Yeah.
he's known as the Arborist. And I know that we did
Trevor
put out funds.
Trevor Liber.
Oh, Trevor.
Trevor
Okay.
Liberty?
Liberty?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the Arborist. So we can, if you could reach out to them, that would be great.
Yeah,
in the
I will do
meantime.
that.
But what we'll do is recommend that this go to ECTV. Do you have any questions? Okay. Excuse customary thanks. Thank you for appearing. We'll see you again on Monday.
Mr. Chairman, I'd recommend we refer this to ECTV to post the contact information.
Motion made and
Second
seconded
that.
to refer this to ECTV with the contact information, the name of the arborist, the 311 number to call, as well as 19 Norman Street via snail mail or a letter. The email, which would be service@tdllanscaping.com. That information be put on and posted at ECTV. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you.